Mean age of eruption. The mean age of eruption of the primary teeth as shown in the figure table and 4 as shown in the figure 16.3 and in table 16.1. Right. Although one should keep in mind the range of values seen in table 16.1 and the idea that a 6-month acceleration or delay is considered normal. That means plus or minus 6 months is considered normal. Even so, on average, the sequence generally follows that shown in the figure 16.3. Let's have a look over the figure 16.3. This is the figure 16.3, mean age in months of emergence of the primary or deciduous dentition. First, it is the mandibular central incisor, followed by maxillary central incisor, followed by maxillary lateral incisor, followed by mandibular lateral incisor, followed by the maxillary and mandibular first molars, followed by maxillary canine, followed by your mandibular canine and followed by mandibular central molar, followed by the maxillary second molar. Right. This table 16.1 eruption of the primary teeth should be kept in mind. Right. Important. Now let's talk about the contact relations. The contact relations of the teeth tend to vary with the degree of bruxism present in the child. A number of factors appear to be related to the development of the contact relations at the time of eruption of the teeth, including the position of the tooth gum, presence of permanent teeth, development of the condyles, cuspal inclines, and neuromuscular influences. Generally, little attention has been paid to the cusp fossa and temporomandibular joint relationships, and usually only tooth observations have been made, namely the mesiolingual cusp of the maxillary molar occludes in the central fossa of the deciduous mandibular molar. Jaw-to-jaw relations with regard to the position of the condyle have received little attention. Perhaps discrepancies means gaps between condylar position and tooth position have little meaning in a relatively plastic, rapidly growing and changing system, including the nervous system. Primary arch form. The arch form and width for both the primary and the permanent dentitions have been largely established by age 9 months. Important point. The arch form and width for both the primary and the permanent dentitions have been largely established by age 9 months. Right. This observation may seem untrue in view of the apparent differences in the facial appearance between the child of that age and a young adult with a permanent dentition. What does change substantially, of course, is the anteroposterior dimension of the jaws, an increase in which is necessary for the incorporation of the permanent molars into the occlusion. It must be kept in mind that the alveolar bone and the basal bone determines the shape of the dental arches. arch form is considered is in more detail in the section on the permanent dentition. Interdental spacing. The position of the deciduous teeth in the arches generally shows some degree of interdental spacing, which is a common feature of deciduous dentition, which tends to decrease slightly with age. The size of the primary teeth and the spacing between them have a relationship to the position of the permanent teeth and the size of the dental arches. For example, sufficient interdental space is needed for the permanent teeth to erupt into an uncrowded position. One of the indicators of future sufficiency or insufficiency of space in the dental arches for the permanent teeth is the presence or absence of spacing between the teeth of the primary dentition, that is, spacing between the primary teeth, you can see in the figure 16.4, is necessary for the proper alignment of the permanent dentition. The probability of crowding of the permanent dentition based on the amount of interdental spacing of the primary teeth is provided in the table 16.2. This is the figure 16.4, primary dentition in a child 5 years of age with adequate, say greater than 6 mm in the dental spacing in both arches. Is here adequate spacing means it is having greater than 6 mm of space, right, which is adequate. The figure on table 16.2 showing the probability of crowding of permanent teeth based on the available spaces between the primary teeth. Say the primary teeth is given in the left side and the chance of crowding. Say if there is a primary teeth interdental spacing or the space available space is greater than 6 mm, then the chance of crowding is none. If it is 3 to 5 mm, then the chance of crowding is 1 in 5. If it is greater than 3 mm, then the chances is 1 in 2. Chances 1 in 2. Now if it is no spacing, then the chances 2 in 3. If it is crowded, then the chances of crowding is 1 in 1. This data from the Layton BC, the author, the early signs of malocclusion, right. Primary molar relationships. Primary molar relationships have been described by Moyers as the flush terminal plane, mesial step and distal step, as you can see in the figure 16.5a, b and c. Figure 16.5 showing the terminal plane relationship in the primary dentition. A is flush terminal plane and B is distal step, C the mesial step, right. Of particular interest to the orthodontist is the mandibular second primary molar have a greater mesiodistal, mandibular second primary molar have a greater mesiodistal diameter than the maxillary second molar, right. As a result of this difference in dimensions of the two teeth, the distal surfaces of these two molars are in the same plane. That is, a flush terminal plane is located at the end of the deciduous dentition. It has been reported that if a step, that is deviation of the flush terminal plane, occurs because of carious lesions or other disturbances. It has been reported that if a step, that is deviation of flush terminal plane, occurs because of carious lesions or other disturbances, a tendency to interfere with the development of normal occlusal relations of the permanent first molars is evident. A tendency to interfere with the development of normal occlusal relations of the permanent first molars is evident. Also, it has also shown that the natural wearing away of the cusps in the deciduous dentition allows the mandible to assume a more forward position during a period when the mandible is growing more rapidly than the maxilla. In the absence of cuspal interferences, some evidence suggests that the permanent incisors erupt with less vertical overlap and that the permanent molars erupt into a more favorable occlusion. Several orthodontic techniques have been directed toward the functional protraction of the mandible during growth in patients with anteroposterior jaw discrepancies. The presence of distal step in the primary second molars will ensue the abnormal occlusion in the permanent first molars. Right? Effects of terminal plane relationships. The effect of these deciduous molar relationships. You can see the figure 16.5. That is the figure 16.5 on the development of the relationships of the permanent molars. You can see in the figure 16.6. This is the effects of the terminal plane relationships. The effects of these deciduous molar relationships, you can see the figure 16.5 on the development of the relationships of the permanent molars. You can see the figure 16.6 is influenced to some degree by the presence or absence of several factors. Say differential growth of the jaws means the different parts of the jaw grows at a different rate. Forward growth of the mandible and sufficient leeway space to accommodate a mesial shift of the permanent molars. See the figure 16.6 showing picture A showing angle class 1 molar relationship and picture B showing class 2 molar relationship and class 3 and picture C class 3 molar relationship. Morphological growth studies on the growth process of a primary dentition having a distal step have been reported by Inuzuka and Bishara et al. In the latter study, it was found that more than 60% of the participants in the study developed a class 1 molar relationship. You can see the figure 16.6a, also figure 16.31, almost 16.6a. That is developed what? They developed a class 1 molar relationship. almost 35% developed a class 2 molar relationship. You can see the figure 16.6b. See, that is the class 2 molar relationship, and slightly more than 4% developed a class 3 molar relationship. You can see the figure 16.6c. The sides of the arch that started with a the sides of the arch that started with a distal step in the deciduous dentition proceeded to develop into a class 2 molar relationship in the permanent dentition. That means a distal step into the class 2 molar relationship of the sides with a flush terminal plane. 56% progressed into a class 1 molar relationship, that means flush terminal plane into class 1 molar relationship, and 44% into a class 2 molar relationship. That means the chances that is the 56%. That means flush terminal plane is developed into 56% into class 1 and 44% into class 2 molar relationship. The mesial step in the deciduous dentition indicates a greater probability for a class 1 molar relationship and a lesser probability for a class 3 molar relationship. Right? Important. That means mesial step most probability into the class 1 molar relationship than the class 3 molar relationship. The class 1 molar relationship is considered to be normal relationship, that is the mesio-buccal cusp of the maxillary first molar occurs in the mesio-buccal developmental groove of the first permanent molar. Right? You can see the figure 16.6a, that is mesio-buccal cusp of the maxillary molar occludes in the buccal cusp. Right? The buccal cusp, as we know, non-supporting cusp for the maxillary molars will occlude in the what? Will overlap the cusp, or they occlude in the embrasures and grooves. Will occlude in the mesio-buccal developmental groove of the first permanent molar. The completion of the eruption of the primary teeth. The completion of the eruption of the primary teeth into occlusion results in contact relations shown in the section on the permanent dentition. The completion of the eruption of the primary teeth into occlusion results in contact relations shown in the section on the permanent dentition. Details of the primary occlusion. The occlusion of the primary teeth in a 3-year-old child is described. Right? After separation has begun, that means interdental spacing has begun, the migration of the teeth changes the occlusion. Nevertheless, if development is normal, the spacing of the teeth is rather uniform. That is, you can see in the figure 16.7. This is the figure 16.7, the primary or deciduous dentition. Here the growth is normal and development is normal, so there is a uniform spacing between the teeth. Right? Between the teeth, that is uniform interdental spacing in the primary teeth. This biological change opens up contacts in the arch between the teeth and increases occlusal wear. These changes anticipates the child's needs. However, because if normal healthy reactions are in effect, the child seldom suffers from mechanical irritations During this severe adjustment period, the normal occlusion of the primary teeth at age 3 years is as follows. One is the mesial surfaces of the maxillary and mandibular central incisors are in line with each other at the median line. And point number 2, the maxillary central incisor occludes with the mandibular central incisor, right, and the mesial third of the mandibular lateral incisor. The maxillary central incisor occurs with the mandibular central incisor and the mesial third of the mandibular lateral incisor. The mandibular anterior teeth strike the maxillary anterior teeth lingually above the level of the incisor ridges. Above the level of the incisor ridges. And point number 3, the maxillary lateral incisor occludes with the distal two-thirds of the mandibular lateral incisors. The maxillary lateral incisor occludes with the distal two-thirds of the mandibular lateral incisor and the portion of the mandibular canine that is mesial to the point of its cusp. And point number 4, the maxillary canine occludes with that portion of the mandibular canine distal to its cusp tip, and the mesial portion of the mandibular first molar under the mesial third of the mandibular first molar, the portion mesial to the tip of the mesiobuccal cusp. And point number 5, the maxillary first molar occludes with the distal two-thirds of the mandibular first molar and mesial portion of the mandibular second molar, which is the portion represented by the mesial marginal ridge and the mesial rangu fossa. And point number 6, the maxillary second molar occludes with the remainder of the mandibular second molar with the distal surface of the maxillary molar projecting slightly over the distal portion of the mandibular second molar. The interrelationship of the cusps and incisal ridges of the opposing arches of primary teeth may be studied in figure 16.8. right? The size relation of the deciduous and permanent arches is illustrated in figure 16.9. See also figure 1.2. This is the figure 16.8 showing the interrelationship of the cusp and incisal ridges of the cusp and incisal ridges of the opposing arches of the primary teeth. Figure 16.8 showing the occlusal contact relations of the primary teeth. Figure A showing the picture A showing the contacts on the maxillary teeth, which is shown on the top, and contacts on the mandibular teeth, which is shown on the bottom. And picture B showing casts of normally developed teeth of a child 6 years of age. Top is frontal view and bottom is sagittal view. This is the figure 16.9. What is shows? It represents the size relation of the deciduous and permanent arches. Figure 16.9. Drawings of a sagittal section through the permanent and primary incisors. Right? The labial surface at the lane, right, is oriented in the same lane. Note the note that the mid alveolar point of the permanent incisors, which is shown as picture B, is more lingual than the same point of the primary incisor, but that the incisor edge of the permanent incisor is more labial than that of the primary incisor. See that, note that the mid alveolar point of the permanent incisor C, which is point B, is more lingual, right? Is more lingual than the same point of the primary incisors, that is point B, but that the incisal edge of the permanent incisor is more labial than that of the primary